Good evening. I'm happy to bring. I made just a couple weeks ago to Chiapas, Mexico. Chiapas is a state in Mexico, and so it's the southern part of the country. And I know what you're thinking when this was announced a few weeks ago. Of all the members at Eastside, of all the men, Micah is perfect person to go to Mexico and speak Spanish. Never mind Oscar Munoz or anyone else. But no, it's kind of a unique beginnings of how this all happened. And we'll get to that. But I wanted to thank the elders greatly for allowing me to go on that trip, having the faith in me, and helping fund that trip. It was a week long. We left on Monday, September 12th, and came back the following Monday, September 19th. And it was just a gospel meeting at the church there in San Cristobal, is the city in Chiapas, San Cristobal de las Casas. This is a view of just the neighborhood, a neighborhood outside of the main part of the city. We'll get into all this here in a bit. So anyway, I'm very thankful and just fortunate. It was an eye-opening experience. It was a very good experience. The meeting was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and 2 sermons on Sunday. So it was very busy, and we did a lot in that time. The way this all came about was I was invited by this man here. His name is Elver Espinosa. Elver is a fantastic member of the church. He's a great man of God. I met Elver when, back in 2019, here's Elver here, when Shay and I went to Colombia with Jeff Archer, light blue. We went with Jeff to Cartagena, Colombia, and the surrounding cities there. Elver has a great story, and I'll give you the short version of it. He came to America from Chiapas and went to Atlanta and met some people in Atlanta, started working, and he ran into Josh Reeves, the brother of Jeb Reeves. Many of you know Jeb. And Josh was a foreman or something like that where Elver worked, and he kept talking to Elver and eventually started having more Bible studies with him, converted him. He started worshiping with them in the States. And Elver realized he was in sin by disobeying the law of being an illegal immigrant and was moved enough to say, I've got to go back home. I can't do this. So he's been thriving and working hard in Chiapas. Jeb Reeves moved down to Chiapas in the early 2000s and started a church there, started to work there, maybe helped grow a work that was already there. I don't know that history quite well, but Elver went to Jeb and worked a lot with him. His English got very good. Elver is a English teacher, so he's a perfect translator. He has some funny ways of emphasizing things, but I'll tell you some of the stories later if you just come up to me and want a good laugh. But Elver is a great preacher. He's not the preacher at where they attend. The men rotate. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But Elver is a really hard worker, very diligent man of God. Here I'm giving Elver that Jeff, I was the courier for Jeff there and delivering those for him. So that's how this all started. Elver said, hey, I would like for you to come. That's where our relationship started. That's my traveling companion there. Chelsea did get to go with me, and we paid for her travels out of our own pocket, and that was really good. Chelsea was incredible help in a lot of ways. She was really beneficial to just have the perspective of a woman in the church. There are a lot of new converts at this church in San Cristobal, and they had a lot of questions of what can a woman do. A lot of the women are coming from Pentecostal, and so there's a lot of activities that denomination allows their women to do, so preaching and dancing and singing for the church. There's all sorts of interesting things, prophecies that they talked about that they believed that they had, and Chelsea was able to be really beneficial in conversing with them and give firsthand experience as a woman of the church and let them know what good work they could be doing. So a little bit about the state of Chiapas and the city of San Cristobal. I've got Mexico's Independence Day. It just so happened that we were down there during their Independence Day, so there was a lot of tourists there, a lot of celebrations. The first night we were there, we slept fairly well. Elver has a really nice house. I'll show you in a minute. And Elver said, "Did you get enough sleep with the bombs going off?" And the night before we were talking about Ukraine and the seriousness that's going on. The bombs going off. And he goes, "Oh, the fireworks?" Yeah, it's like, okay, let's get something real clear, So there were fireworks nonstop while we were there and all through the night. So we were there, a really interesting time in their history. So Chiapas is the very southern part of Mexico here. It's really hard to see. That city says Tuxtla, and that is where the airport is. San Cristobal is about an hour and a half away from there. So we're still a good ways from Guatemala. We serve 4 men in Guatemala here at Eastside. And so that's about a 3.5-hour drive from the border. I didn't realize how far we were. I was hoping there'd be some kind of exchange of something. I don't know. But we were quite a ways away. And that's a long 3.5 hours. It's a mountainous region. This San Cristobal is over 7,000 feet above sea level. And give you an example, Athens is less than 1,000. So their hottest temperature, in the dead middle of July, the hottest they get is around 76, 75 degrees. So they're living pretty good. But they get pretty chilly there. Population is close to Huntsville, just to paint you a picture of what the area is like. And it's incredibly low cost of living. Many of them may watch this, so I want to be respectful, but it's very different compared to the United States. Cost of living for us, we would be jaw-dropped just how affordable it is there. To continue with the geography and culture of the area, like I said, Pentecostal and Catholicism is kind of their standard religion. That's what the church is kind of helping preach about, or preach against, rather. So they get a lot of scenarios, and they know how to answer those quickly and effectively. This is the outskirts of the city. Going along with, I know that several of you have probably been to Mexico and been to Guatemala. I know for a fact that some of you have, and so some of this may be really familiar, but just to kind of paint you a little bit of a picture. This is just a really quick picture. There are no convenience stores, but everybody sells from their house. Roadside sells and ways of making money, even gas and diesel. They have those in containers you can purchase. So like every quarter mile, you'd never run out of gas. They've got it everywhere. And snacks are abundant in fruit. Kids are put to work there. These little girls are gathering wood for their home. So it gave me some really good ideas for my children of chores that we can get done around the house. Everyone there is very hardworking. Their culture. So I got to drive in Mexico, and I don't know why they have lines painted on the road, because not one person abides by it. So that was the closest I've been to being an absolute outlaw. That was pretty wild, but I got to enjoy that, and there really aren't many wrecks there, which is surprising. It is a pretty stereotypical shot of the countryside of Chiapas. If there is space at all, they will plant corn. They will plant maize, just anywhere. That's their biggest supply and commodity that they have. That's a Pentecostal church in the background, and some homes there to the left. We're primarily in the city, but we're out in the countryside from time to time. This is Elver's home. It's really quite a huge house. Even here, it's really very large. He slowly built onto it time and time again, as time went on, I should say. Elver's does very well for himself. That was 40 steps, and we came and left his house many times, so we felt that burn. Elver has a couple of outdoor patios, and we did a lot of studying out there, which was really nice. And this man here is Daddy Nile. He's one of the brethren there at the church, and he's a baker. He and his brother are bakers, and this is what they do to make money for their home. They have a bakery at the bottom of their house, and they sell out on the streets. Okay. The church and fellowship that we had with the church there called Eje Dos. Eje is just access. This is just their address, basically. Access to. So, like we have Pepper Road and Jones Road, and they're Eje Dos. This is the group there. Something great about this group. Before COVID, you can see how many people they have there. They're up to 60 people, maybe. 60 members, and before COVID, they started with 8. They have grown, just exploded, and Elver said he when we first started talking, he said we don't wear masks, and in Mexico there's so many more mandates of masks still. It's still a high rate of COVID. He said we don't wear masks, we don't distance ourselves, and we never have, and the Lord has blessed us. We did not want to stop serving because we had some weak members that needed to keep coming. And so they never let up with services, and they've God has blessed them with unbelievable growth. Some really strong members and a great strong number there at Eje Dos. This is the outside of the building. We had a little visitor there that morning. He slept on the road or on the sidewalk there, and this is their building. They rent now, and they've purchased property to build, and so they're saving up the funds for their building. They have not a rule, but an expectation of punctuality there. We got there one time. I think we were 25 minutes early, and we were one of the last people there. And they're all there at least 30 minutes ahead of time, and for good reason, lots of good reasons. One of them is when they greet each other. The men and women greet each other with a holy kiss on the cheek, and the sisters do that, and the brothers hug, and it's every single member, every single child, every single individual. You hug, shake their hand, speak with them, and move on. And you do it at the beginning, you do it at the end, and they allow a lot of time to do that and to speak with each other before services start. They are so rigid on it that if a man is to serve in services and he's 10 minutes late, then they say, sorry, your spot has been filled. You didn't give us a heads up, and so we've got to keep moving. So they're very, they take their services and assembly very seriously. These are the men of the congregation. I'll try to remember their names. There are a couple that slip in my mind, but the men that are really leading the group here, this is Leo, that's Elver, of course. This is Daddy Nel. Daddy and Leo are brothers. This is Hosmar. This is Daddy's son. He's 16 and does everything. He does announcements, reads scripture, preaches. He's actually just turned 17 while we were there, and he's does so much work. This is Danny. So we got Daddy and Danny. Our team, I told you I was going to forget his name. I get it wrong every time. He's a really good brother. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. This is Oscar, and these men, Oscar, Artemio, there we go, Danny, Daddy, Hosmar, Leo, and Elver are the men who really everything running and organized and structured, and they do such a great job. They're really influential, and I look up to a lot of them. And in this picture, Artemio and Elver are the oldest at 46. It's a very young group, but they're very mature in their spiritual life. These are the women here. There's Chelsea. This is Rosie. That's Daddy's wife. their daughter Shaylee. Micah Me is a cousin of theirs. I always get her name wrong too. And that's Blanca, and that's Rosie. Anyway, you'll forget just as quick as I'll forget. But their names can slip my mind. But these people, I'll never forget them. They're so hospitable and kind and loving, and just salt of the earth. Fantastic, fantastic people. This is Gabby. I'll mention her real quick. This is Gabby. They have 3 daughters: Erica, Etika, and Vanessa, and a third daughter, which Emily. So we bonded with them. We talked about daughters a lot. They fed us breakfast and supper every day, and that was probably too much food. This is at Leo's house. This is at Dottie's house, which we saw earlier. They would not let Chelsea help, and she tried and tried, but they said, no, you keep your white girl fingers out of here. We're gonna do this thing right. This is at Dottie's house on the roof here, and I'm bringing these up not just to say, hey, look at what we ate, but every single conversation was a spiritual conversation. It was really a lot of thought went into every discussion, and real focus, and you could tell they wanted to glean anything that we had to say, and the same from us and them. You know, so many things are the same. Sin is sin across the world, and the struggles that they have are the same struggles that we have. Difficulties within the church, issues they have with brothers and sisters, it's the same stuff, and it was great for us to encourage them, but for them to encourage us, and to know that it made me think of Elijah. You know, certainly there's a great number there, and there's a great number of Christians in Limestone County and the United States, of course, but maybe think of Elijah and how he felt like he was the only one, and God says, I have so many more. I have so many more Christians, or so many more followers that you don't even realize. That kind of kept ringing in my head, that same struggles, same difficulties, and very encouraging. This is a group I'll talk about a little bit later. These people traveled a great distance. Chelsea really bonded with this woman, Isabel. If there was a Mexican version of Paula George, that was her. She had the same smile. It was uncanny, so we called her Paula. But Isabel is real sweet. So this is more of, it wasn't just good meals. It was the conversation and encouraging topics we talked about were really edifying and really good, really heavy stuff and emotional things to deal with. This is the family. This is her home. Again, I've forgotten her name, but this is Gabby, her daughter, her son Daniel, and his wife, and then Gabby's children. This is her home. She lives on the side of a mountain with really difficult steps to get up to. So we're also not only impressed with the endurance of their spiritual lives, but their physical, of how hard and how treacherous some of their areas are. This is at Leo's house. This is one of the last big meals we had together. This is at Oscar and Gabby's house. Real humble means, but so hospitable. And this was a really, really deep, long conversation about a brother of theirs, Gabby and her brother Daniel, and their mom. They've got a brother, physical brother, who is not in a right relationship, and they're dealing with issues, and we talked a lot about, they're really discouraged. We talked a lot about how to approach the brother, how to go to that brother, how to bring faithful brothers with you to go to the brother in wrong, and they were discouraged, thinking they were the only ones trying. It was often very emotional, and you could just feel that in the room, but that's what I mean when the same issues, their issues are the same as ours. We stayed there for a really long time and had a really good discussion there in their home. These are the brethren that I mentioned earlier, the woman that reminds us of Paula. These guys are from a city called Ocosingo, and it is Actually, it's further than Ocosingo. They're in a village outside there, and they drove 4 hours to get to the gospel meeting. They can't just, where they are, they can't just, pop by a few blocks over, a couple miles over. They took public transportation from buses to taxis to other buses, and it was a 4-hour commute to get to the meeting, and they stayed overnight, and we really enjoyed their time together. This guy in particular was really happy to see me and meet me. Basilio Munoz converted him. His name is Filippo, I think I'm getting it wrong already. Yeah, I'm getting it wrong. But Basilio Munoz converted him many years ago, and we talked about him and Oscar and Isaac and Darcy and Benji. They were really encouraging. And then this family here. So there were 2 churches that they came from. They were from a church called Gracias a Dios, Thanks to God, and they were from Hawaka. So just really encouraging that they drove so far to come to see us and be with us. So like I mentioned, it was a Wednesday through Sunday study, and it was challenging at times with translations and trying to draw metaphors and stories to connect with what we were studying. While we were there, I had some lessons prepared, but while we were there, I had written some up and changed some things. I actually preached one of Steve's lessons while we were there. Since it was Independence Day there, I used one that he preached. I had notes on from this past year called Independence Day. They are struggling with just faith. And I know that sounds simple or that sounds elementary at times, but they really struggle with how to continue to be faithful. And if I brought this one up because this is the women of the congregation over questions about what can women do. So it was a real open conversation. What can women do in the church? And a lot of them are coming from these Pentecostal groups that there were members back here. It's not you're not really being able to tell what they look like, but they were new converts. By the time we were there, they had only been Christians for 2 weeks, and they were still convinced that they were able to prophesy, and they were discouraged and had a lack of faith because of what they saw as a lack of activity that they could do in the church. So Chelsea made a long list of things that women are able to do, and we talked about the unique abilities that women have in the church. We talked about Timothy, and where would Timothy be without the women in his life? Where would be that great servant and that great man of faith? We talked about Ruth and Naomi, these women who exhibited such great faith and strength, and mentioned those that are mentioned in Hebrews 11. Faith is a big thing for them. So a lot of the lessons that I spoke on or gave were primarily about faith. We took a lot from the book of Hebrews. Many of them, I wouldn't say they're drifting back to their old beliefs, but they certainly weren't letting go of a lot of them. So that was a big topic. This is actually on the second day. This was on Tuesday, and this is back in Ocosingo. It's a city, Elver said an hour and a half away, but it felt like 5 hours away. Very curvy mountain roads. And this is a very small church site in Ocosingo. And we went there because there's some Mayan ruins, and we got to see that, and that was really nice. And on our way back, we visited with this man and his family. Elver is reading his shirt and I think teasing him or something. You see here, these are homemade crutches, and he was working and fell, and I forget what happened. I think he broke or shattered his hip, something pretty serious. And we came and spoke with him to encourage him and to just visit with him. They built a church building in their backyard so that they'd have a place to worship. They were crammed in a house, and this man worked hard, and his family worked hard, and they built this building. And you see him there with his crutches and the, I think I have this on the screen, money that members gave me for the trip went to him to help with his surgeries or medication. He was in a lot of pain, so it was nice to be able to help them out and to give that away. I also appreciate the advice many people gave me. I liked Mike Selswick's advice, my favorite. He leaned over and said, "Don't touch anything." But I had to touch something, so we didn't drink the water, but we got through it okay, and we were able to help them out, or you all were able to help them out, and it was encouraging to visit with them. You may have a hard time seeing these. There were just so many pictures, it was hard to choose which ones of what I wanted to share. This is at Daddy's house, Daddy and Elver, and we had breakfast there. And this morning that we broke off, I had more pictures, but this is one of the women that had just come out of Pentecostal church, and they're talking to them about how prophecies have ended and how our dreams don't necessarily mean that this is a reality, and having to let them understand that. And it was every time they were together, it was a spiritual discussion. It was really encouraging. With what little Spanish I know, I can understand more than I can speak, so I was able to keep up a little bit. Chelsea was too, and but it was every time they were together. It was, let's talk, let's have a good time, but how can I redirect this back to a way of strengthening you and bringing up God's word? This is just more time with these brethren from Hawaka and Gracias a Dios. This is just some of the nights of preaching, studying, and the times off. And this is more of those just spiritual discussions after a meal. This is a brother named David, and he's kind of has those thoughts. He was trying to convince the brethren that he understood me in English, and they were trying to. He's not a Christian yet, and they're working really hard on him. He has all the things together, but has yet to make the commitment. This is that conversation about the brother who was not in a godly relationship. This was a really, really good conversation, and the sermons were good. The time we worshiped together was fantastic, and I loved it. It was just really what was so encouraging. That was so encouraging, but it was also so encouraging to have these nights where we were sitting. These are the two sisters that are new converts, 2 weeks old in Christ in our time of visit. And this was a long, very long, you can see multiple cups of coffee where we were staying there. And this is at Dottie and Leo's mother's house. And we were talking all about prophecies and what the New Testament teaches about that, and what women's roles are now, and men's roles in the church. We talked about Hebrews, in the book of Hebrews, of how God came in miracles and wonders and signs, and that's not there anymore. That the new and perfect Jesus came with this new law and fulfilled that. We don't have to have these incomplete, scattered messages from God, but we have this one perfect word from the spokesman of Jesus, for this new law, this better law. It was really encouraging to hear. One thing they said, it was really encouraging to hear the things we were saying and the things they were saying were the exact same thing. We made a point, and they were nodding their head, looking at each other like, "You told me this yesterday." And she said in the Pentecostal church, it was just kind of whatever moves them, whatever spirit moves them, whatever tongue they speak in that day, that service. It was very misguided and chaotic, and so it was nice that was a point we made often. We may have different languages, be from different countries, but we have one word and one truth that we all abide by. This was a really important conversation we had. Like I said, this is they sell things from their homes. This is Daddy and Leo's mother's house. She has been a Christian for 30, 40 years. She sells these Cokes and chips out of her front door, and she also made up her own tracts. She has her own correspondence course that she made herself and typed it all up, and she hands them out to every customer. I have one somewhere. I think it's still in my bag, but it was really encouraging. They're just, all of them are really hard workers, and they've all got their sights set on heaven and the work of the kingdom. So while we were there, I was trying to be really mindful about, okay, take pictures, because we'll have a report. Not only that, we want memories and be able to show people, tell people, let people meet digitally, brothers and sisters on southern Mexico. And while I was thinking about that, I also thought, well, when I give, a report, I want to be able to end it with some kind of thought. This was on the last day. This was Sunday morning. And this is Oscar's family. Oscar, Gabby, Erica, Vanessa back there, and this is Emily. Emily is right about Margie's age, my youngest's age, and these are her first steps she was taking. And I recorded it on my phone, and I still need to send that video to them. And they were just so happy and giggling, and the little girls, her big sisters, were jumping up and down. And Oscar's there. He won't move. He keeps his hands there, and he catches her when she makes a funny step. And Gabby's behind, just squealing and just so excited and clapping. She's already seen this with 2 other kids, but she's seen it with her third. And Oscar doesn't move. He just stays there, and his hands don't move. They stay outstretched. He's encouraging, nodding, watching her. If you want to look over the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, I think there may be maybe 2 thoughts we can pull from this little picture and real event I got to witness. There are dozens of passages we could use for this example. The writer is talking to the Jewish Christians to keep on keeping on, and to push forward in the faith and to not drift back. Don't step back. We are not the people that fall back. We're the people that push forward and go forward. Chapter 10, verse 22. Let us draw near with a true heart and full assurance of faith, with our hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. That's the first thought I had. Thinking about someone coming to the Lord, someone acknowledging their Father and taking those first steps, those very first steps. The excitement that there is in heaven, the excitement that there is from future brothers and sisters. Someone coming to the Lord, taking those first steps to the Father. And then in 1 John chapter 1, verse 7. Again, there could be dozens of passages we use, but I just picked these 2. 1 John 1, verse 7. But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Jesus, his Son, cleanses us from all sin. Just God's hands are always out open for us, watching us, waiting for us to come to him. And the excitement that the family had of this babe in Christ continue to walk on her own for the first time. Just the joy they had. I know that shot right there, she doesn't look very happy, but she was excited. Do we have that excitement to see our brothers and sisters successfully walk to God, successfully walk on their own? Are we encouraging that behavior? Or is it, well, that's just the way we are. That's just, good, he's here. Good, I'm glad you're here. Oh, good, I'm glad you led that song. Or good, I'm glad you were encouraging those visitors or brought that food or whatever the circumstance is. We need to help celebrate that walk, the fact that we are walking true and walking straight and walking with our eyes focused on God. And of course, for those who have not yet taken those steps, we need to have that excitement and that encouragement. We can't push them to God, but we can give all that encouragement and show the excitement, know that the excitement and the joy that's in heaven when someone takes those steps as a new Christian. It was, I didn't expect to get emotional while we were there. On the last day, I told them how I'd really fallen in love with so many of them. And on the second day we were there, Chelsea and I looked at each other like, are we about to move to Mexico? Are we going to do this? And then I got terribly sick Sunday night, and I thought, I'm never going to Mexico ever again. But the opportunity was phenomenal, but we don't have to go across the world to have that impact or be impacted that way. We can celebrate and enjoy the walk that we're all on. We can help others take those first steps and enjoy that, and for ourselves be able to enjoy that, but ultimately bring that glory to God. And I'm so grateful for that trip, and I look forward to the possibility of going in the future. Oscar's already said, when are we going? When are you going back? I would love to make that trip again, but I hope that just this little introduction into that small city in San Cristobal and the short time that I was there, that we can be encouraged to know that in that part of the world, there are members fighting strong, fighting hard, and very consistent in their diligence and for the assembly and worshiping God. They're very evangelistic, and I'm happy to be associated with them in some fashion. We do not support that church, Ejidos. We don't support that church. We don't support a preacher there, I should say. They are in the middle of appointing elders. Daddy and Leo, the brothers there, and Artemio are the ones considered for eldership. They're still studying through that and want to make sure they've covered all their bases, and they're very thorough. But I'm happy to let you know that that church is strong and focused on doing the right thing and serving the Lord. So there are people here who have not taken their first steps, and there are people here who have been walking for a really long time. And your legs get tired, and sometimes we forget to watch our step, and you trip and fall. God's there to pick you up, but we have to reach out and accept that help. If there are those, and I know there are those who have not been, have not chosen Jesus, have not chosen salvation, have not chosen heaven, ultimately, have not taken the first steps toward God. And there are those who have tripped along the way and feel too tired or too discouraged to get up and keep walking. God's hands are still out there waiting, and the invitation will always stand. We have the baptism ready, and we have plenty of men with strong arms that can put you down and bring you up. If there's anything that you need, you're welcome to come forward as we stand and sing together.